Welcome to A Friend of Mine, a series of conversations with some incredible and inspiring women in business from regional and rural Australia. I'm Kimberly Finesse, your host and the founder and editor of Oak Magazine, and I cannot wait to introduce you to some amazing female entrepreneurs who will share with you their experience and knowledge of what it takes to start, grow and scale a successful business. So let me introduce you to a friend of mine. Happy International Rural Women's Day! With COVID restricting so many events and further isolating rural communities, International Rural Women's Day is an important date for us to take a moment to celebrate and shine a light on the success of rural women. In celebration of Rural Women's Day, I would like to introduce you to some special friends of mine who live in rural Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. Through these conversations, I hope that women living in rural areas see and hear themselves in these stories, and others recognise how incredibly hardworking, innovative and resilient women living in rural Australia are. Let me introduce you to a rural friend of mine. In September 2020, regional New South Wales welcomed Fig&Co into the retail scene after Bec Nicholls decided she didn't want to travel for hours to find a gift for her sister. In less than a year, Bec has built a network of suppliers from almost every state in Australia, and she is looking forward to moving into a bigger premises by the end of the year. Did I mention that her business has just celebrated its first birthday? This is a fabulous conversation about being part of the solution, the challenge of finding a rental space and acquiring wholesalers as a new rural business, and why we need to take time to stop and explore all the tiny towns when travelling. Meet my friend Bec from Fig&Co. Hello, Bec, and happy Rural Women's Day.
Hi Kimberly, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. Now, you're actually new to business, Bec. You were one of very few people who were brave enough to open a business during a global pandemic. Can you tell me a bit about that? You know, what was the lead up to opening Fig&Co? And how did it all happen?
Well, I'm not sure if brave's the right. Yes, brave, but probably crazy is probably a better way to describe it. I think I've always wanted to have a business of my own, and, you know, sort of secretly working away in the background, I suppose, in my mind, that was something I always wanted to do. And it was my third child, Sadie, was born in March 2020. And I think it was a couple of weeks before the whole country went into lockdown. And I went into Gundagai to buy a gift for my sister for her birthday, and I came home empty-handed. And I can remember speaking to my husband, and I just said, look, this is just really frustrating. Like, I can either be part of the solution and, you know, stop whinging about the lack of availability that we have locally, or I can do something about it. And that was the actual point that I remember knowing that this was what I was going to do. So from there was a lot of time spent on the couch, you know, breastfeeding and scrolling on my phone and just sort of thinking about what that might look like. And I sort of started to, you know, test the waters with a few wholesale accounts and stuff like that. And then, you know, which actually came with its own set of challenges, because sometimes people were like, well, what does your store look like? And it's like, well, this is a concept. This is something that we haven't actually started yet. So then there was a few road bumps there where, you know, which you completely understand, because, you know, some people don't want to have their stock in your shop if they don't know what it is going to be represented like. So, you know, it sort of all just kept steamrolling, and then this pandemic just wasn't sort of going away, and it got to the point where I was like, well, we just have to do it, you know, otherwise, you know, when's the end game? Like, there's no one had the crystal ball to say, well, at the end of 2022 or 2023 or who knows when this is going to be normal again. So I just decided that I'd open it and just see what happened.
I love
hope
that.
for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you just, as you said, like, there was no end in sight really. You know, I think there were some very up in the air dates, but when you feel so passionate about something and just follow that gut instinct, I suppose, that, you know, that was saying, hey, it's okay to open a store. Like, what experience did you bring with you then, Bec? Like, how did you know, what to do, what to open, who to contact? Like, how does that all happen? Did you have an inner circle that you could rely on, or locals that you could ask?
No, I just fumbled my way through. I started looking for a space to open it in, and that sort of was another sort of set of challenges. Gundagai's a really small town, just one main street. A lot of the business front have houses are now residential buildings, so a lot of those it looks empty a lot of the time in Gundagai, but so many of those shop fronts are actually people's houses. So whilst they look like there's nothing in there, people are living there, they just don't have a shop in them. I think once I found a space, then I sort of knew how to sort of gauge how much to buy, and do you know what I mean? Sort of that kind of helped me process which it's evolved in 12 months. It's evolved immensely, I must say, from its beginnings. I think and follow a lot of other stores that have been in business for like 15 plus years. So I have no idea what that would look like. I would love to see like a snapshot of it like every 5 years of what happened in their store, because it would just be amazing to see, obviously fashion and trends and stuff change, but how they adapted and followed and, were able to keep up with that as well. So yeah, it's, but I haven't had a mentor per se. Like I didn't sort of know anyone that I could call and go, hey, when you were doing this, how did you do that? I just sort of fumbled my way through.
Fumbled well. Good job. So with the lockdowns, there hasn't been a lot of foot traffic, I'm presuming, through the town. What have you done to keep your doors open or to continue to sell?
Social media has obviously been, for me, has been the key to be recognised in general, but also through the pandemic. I think Instagram has been a huge help for my business and growing my business in the pandemic too. But it also was in my favour because most people were at home. I think there was a lot more people flicking and, potentially sitting on the couch with not a lot to do, or homeschooling or working from home or whatever. I feel like we've probably all spent more time on our phones than what we ordinarily would. So, Instagram really has been the thing behind the growth of Fig&Co. I didn't, and I still don't have a live website platform to purchase things from, and largely that's just me being hopeless at getting my information on there and being time poor and all that kind of thing. But I also was really nervous about how I was going to control my inventory. Like, it's just me. So it's not like I have someone in the shop and then I'm sort of working in the background. I'm in the shop and I'm working on the background. So having an online store was making me a little bit nervous to keeping on track of my inventory. So I sort of haven't launched into it just yet because I feel like it probably requires an extra staff person, which we will probably do next year. I think we've grown enough to probably support an additional staff member. I do have one girl that works 1 day a week, but it's really that's just so that I can actually have some time with my kids. But yes, I think next year we will go down that road of having that person so that we can, do it properly and do it well. And I just didn't want to do it twice. I was like, let's just do it once and do it well.
It is short-term pain though for long-term gain. Just getting that inventory, I mean, it's time consuming and it can seem overwhelming, but once you get into that process, I think everything will just open up for you. The other thing is that it is really complicated, isn't it? Like, it's not just having the website, it's having a point of sale in the store. It's knowing all your postage and handling, like to deal with Australia Post and what that then looks like and the cost of all that as well. It's not just as easy as putting the website up, is it?
It isn't. It really isn't. And I think if you're a home-based business and you don't have a bricks and mortar store, you don't have those problems because it's just what I have and all that kind of, and I think that's where a Shopify from your mobile is brilliant because you just pay a monthly fee and it's super easy. And I think 90% of the websites that I buy things from are Shopify these days.
Absolutely.
And I think it's amazing. The other thing is too, we really want people to come into our shop. The whole point of, having that sort of real need, we want people to get in their car from Wagga, from Canberra, locally even, and say, I want to get to this store. Like, yes, she's got an online presence sort of, but no, I just want to get in there and have a look at it. And it kind of makes people want to actually visit. And hopefully when they're here, they go to the bakery and they have lunch at the pub and, do a few other things as well. So, we've sort of wanted to really make it that it's a shop to visit.
Yep, a destination, an experience, and I feel like we'll be looking for that too. As soon as we can, I think people would much prefer to walk into a store than buy online. We've done it for so long and so often. There's little joy in the postman arriving these days. Yes. So tell me, what's the transition been like then from like an employee to a business owner?
When my husband and I, we first came back to Gundagai, my background is in agriculture, so I was working as a embryo transfer technician for a vet pre this new whole space that I'm working in now, and I couldn't do that when I was pregnant, so I think I worked right up until I was, a month or so due with our first child, Toby, and then I haven't actually gone back to work since we had him. So I've had a few years where I've been at home working with my husband on the farm, obviously still running our own business with the farm as well. But then Fig&Co I was just so excited to have this creation, new sort of outlet where I got to, it was kind of like a little bit of, for me, if that makes sense. Like I think there was just this time where this transition in my life where I went from, yes, working, full time for a boss to not working at all to then creating this new space and this exciting venture, which it doesn't feel like work, if that makes sense. And I think
perfect sense.
So I feel like that when I'm doing things for the Fig&Co and when I'm making decisions and I'm doing all that stuff, yes, we're busy, but I really enjoy it. So I don't sort of, it's not like I, get up in the morning and I'm like, oh God, I've got to be in the cattle yards and I've got to do this or I've got to do that, or it's exciting and I'm like, right, I've got to get everyone organised so that I can go and do this fun thing. I've loved that transition and I've loved that excitement that I get from having my own little, and you know what, it started off being this little thing and now we've just purchased a building and, it's in 12 months, I couldn't imagine how much this has grown. Like it has exceeded our expectations 100 times over.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You haven't just launched a business in a global pandemic. You've launched and then grown into a new premises. Like it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it totally blows my mind to think about it. But then I still get excited, and I love that about it. Like it's still. I only just was talking to my girlfriend today. She came in briefly, and I said, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get over into the new shop, and the shutters are booked, and new windows, and this and that, and it's all happening." And I was like, "From the 1st of November, we'll be across there." And it's, hardly past our first year anniversary, which is kind of, surreal really. But who knows what the next 12 months will bring, but it'll be exciting.
Yeah. Well, what's been the highlight then in the last 12 months?
I think the surprising feeling of that support. So when you put yourself out there, and this shop really is just there's so much of you in it that, it's your baby. It's that child that you didn't have. It's that, I think that the fact that people celebrated it as much as I loved it, I think that was the surprising thing to me. I was really nervous. I was like, I really think there's a need for this, but is there? And that self-doubt. But, people kept coming in and they kept buying and I kept buying. And all of a sudden I was just like, oh, I was right. Like, yes, this town can support this store and, these people have missed this. And We might live in rural Australia, but we actually still really like all these nice things. It just took someone to collaborate it and put it together.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's been the really beautiful thing about it. I think that it's been celebrated, and not only have we had people visit that like the store, but I get supported locally, which is just, and that has been the little, like when we came out of that second lockdown, there was no one travelling, but I had to get a second person in to help me on that first day because I was that busy. I couldn't be in here on my own. It was bananas. And they were local people. They were just people that had been in lockdown for, how many weeks? I've just lost track now of the lockdowns. But
we're at 7, so I've got no idea. Everything's a blur for me.
I don't know how many weeks and days in lockdowns, but it was just so beautiful. And, you know, these guys they wanted a bit of retail therapy, but they knew how much we were hurting. You know what I mean? Like, That's the spirit of a small community that, you know, they were like, I'm buying this locally because I know Bec's been shut for 3 months and I know that she's probably struggling to pay her rent. So that was really nice.
That's beautiful, actually. Do you want to take me through why you're so passionate about people knowing about your rural community?
Yeah, look, I mean, these small little towns, and not just Gundagai, but a lot of small little towns, I think, get missed a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? And I even know when we were kids growing up, Mum and Dad was always like, right, get in the car, make sure you've been to the toilet. We're not stopping till we get there. You know, and we would obviously go to the coast or, you know, whatever. But I think what we really need to do is try and educate people to stop at the little towns and see what there is to see here and, you know, visit the little shops. And I think rather than just have one shop, if we could all get together and say, this is a destination because there's these 6 things to do and it's actually an overnight stay. So maybe make it a stay here. So rather than just stop and have lunch, stay the night. We've got an amazing park. We've got a pump track. There's beautiful little stores, some great pubs. Just, you know, I feel like if everyone works together, then it sort of paints the picture as a whole, as opposed to just one business promoting themselves. So, you know, it's just, I feel like for me, it's an all-in type thing. Like I don't want to be selfish and just promote myself, because at the end of the day, the other businesses that are here are going to help me as well. If we all help each other and if we all promote Gundagai as a town, then more people are going to want to stop here.
Absolutely. And it's a picturesque little country town as well, in the beautiful Riverina. Beautiful. And I mean, if people can't stop, you know, right now, why not jump online? But otherwise, you know, make sure, as you said, it's not from point A to point B. It's stopping in between and visiting and, you know, getting to know the locals and, taking time. And maybe we're ready for that, to take time, to slow down, not to be in such a rush, as you said, go to the toilet, we're not stopping.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think, look, Bendigo to Adelaide's an 8-hour trip for us. And not that we say we're not going to stop at all, but it is still, you know, we're not stopping all the time. So make sure you go to the toilet at the halfway mark. But I think just from speaking to a few women for this little series, our Rural Women's Day series, I know myself, I'm definitely going to make more of an effort to stop in at the little towns, even if we're doing the silo art tour. If we're stopping to look at that silo art, well, then we need to go over to the corner store and grab an ice cream or, you know, grab a coffee or something and make sure that, we make memories and help little communities along the way.
Oh, it's 100%. And the more that people have that mentality of, it doesn't matter if it takes us 3 days to get there. Like, really?
It doesn't
matter?
No.
It doesn't matter. No. And I'm guilty of it too, don't worry. Like, there's been times where I'm just like, oh, you know, just like get everybody in, and once they're asleep, we're not turning the car off. Like, I totally get it. But it would be nice to just go, you know what, we're not putting a time frame on this. Yes, we've got our destination in mind. We've got our booking. It's all fine, but let's just take our time to get there. And You know, and there's just, Holbrook's another beautiful town. You know, there's all these Yass, Jugeong, like they're just on the highway near me. Gundagai is halfway between Melbourne and Sydney. It's the perfect stop if you're doing that highway drive. But it's making people aware of that too. Like, you know, if you're from Melbourne, how are you going to know? And Gundagai, really, you've got to get off the highway to see it. Like, it's not, you know, like it's not right there. You've got to pull off. And you know what? We don't get a huge amount of help, you know, from bigger, like no big publications of doing stories on Gundagai. So, you know, I pitched this to you and was just like, well, I hope, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
Oh, it wasn't even a moment to hesitate or think about it or anything like that. It's an easy yes from me. And, you know, at some point I wish I had more funding too, that I could do more of this and showcase these areas and, you know, go on little road trips and show people what these towns look like. But I suppose at the end of the day, if we are stopping in these towns, we need to use Instagram. We need to use social media and showcase it and share it with our friends, and let them know where it is and tag businesses in and things like that, you know, instead of mindlessly scrolling and double tapping on influencers. I mean, there is so much more that we can do with Instagram. What does 2022 look like?
We'd sort of written off the end of this year, to be honest. Like we didn't know, you know, what are we coming out of lockdown? What are these vaccination rates doing? You know, it was just, the roadmap was just not even existent. No one really knew what was going on. And I just sort of, you know, I was like, look, I just have to write this year off. We'll just write it out best we can and start fresh next year. For me, will be just a celebration of our new space. We will be... Eventually, yes, I will have an online store next year, I promise. That is going to happen.
Well, if you need help, let me know. I'm putting my hand up now to say if you need help, I am happy to help with Shopify.
Okay, great. I'll take you up on that. Yes, and I think Fig&Co is going to a point where we can actually, I can have someone help me, which will be really nice on a more permanent basis. Our little boy Toby starts school next year. So one will be in school, two little girls still at home. So it'll give me that flexibility to sort of be like, oh no, I've got to do this pick up or that drop off or whatever, but the store will still be open. I think this year's been, we've had a nanny, which has been beautiful. So next year's probably going to look a little bit different in terms of, you know, how the shop's actually open and who's there. But I will certainly be there most days and may have a child or two in tow. Who knows?
Oh, look, it's good life lessons for them anyway. And I think that's what I've noticed with my four. Like, life changes so much depending on the kids. And, you know, the wonderful thing about us as women is we're so adaptable. You know, as you said, you know, your eldest is off to primary school next year, which, yeah, it does. It brings in a whole new range of hours that you can work and, you know, obviously doing a little bit more work after 3 p.m. in terms of readers and things like that. But, yeah, we just adapt and go with the flow.
That's like the whole thing about COVID, teaching you that you do have to just adapt, don't you? I mean, you yourself would have had to, like, I mean, I thankfully didn't have to homeschool. I do not know what that would have been like. And I really take my hat off to all the mums that did that and dads, because everyone just had such a huge, you know, that's just so huge.
Like, this is the other thing. You know, I made a choice to not homeschool in term 3, just because I needed to get the magazine out. And unfortunately, like, we're seeing what's happened, the impact of that. So, you know, our littlest prep is a little bit behind now because, just didn't sit down with her enough to do what she needed to do. So there's also that guilt. So it doesn't matter if you do the right thing and you're exhausted because you're not doing your business, or you focus on your business and you're not homeschooling. Like, I don't know if it was a win-win, you know, either way. You just cope and just keep going and adjusting the course, I think. So, yeah.
That's exactly right, I think. And everyone's just doing their best.
They are.
everyone is seriously just doing their best. I did read a, quote or whatever, and it was a guy saying, when I came to Australia, I'd missed like 6 years of school. I couldn't speak English, blah, blah, blah. He's like, now, a really, really, really well-educated man. He's like, speaks fluent English. He's like, you're doing fine. He's like, if your kids miss a couple of months of school, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's got way too much pressure on. It's fine. We're all going to get out the other end of it, and everyone's going to get out at the other end at different stages, and that's totally fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Before I let you go, Bec, can you tell me about a friend of yours that we all need to know about?
Yeah, so Rach, who is my gorgeous little helper here on a Thursday, so she's the one that mans the store on a Thursday, has launched Gundagai Goods. So she's actually a school teacher by trade, and after all of this year and all that kind of thing, and she had a little baby, she's like, Bec, I just don't think I can do teaching again, and I'm going to launch this business, and I just want to have a shout out to her. She's just having the biggest impact here and really, really trying to launch their Gundagai Goods, which is a celebration of, goods locally, all Australian made sort of hampers. She's got a store up and running, an online store up and running, so you can jump on her website and order a hamper, some nice wine and different things. But I think watch that space, because I think that there is going to be a deli in Gundagai soon. I feel that it's going to grow to a point where it won't be just a little online hamper business, but we will have a beautiful store that we can get those, really yummy meats and cheeses and gorgeous produce from.
Yum.
I feel that's where her business is going to go, is my heads up. I hope she doesn't listen to this and go, oh my God, you've put me into like this mixo spin of like, no, it was only ever going to be a hamper business. But,
look, just a little push in the deli direction now. But until then, we can all do with gourmet hampers. So definitely have a look at that. So that was Gundagai Goods and Hampers, which will be amazing. And of course, there is so many other businesses from Gundagai that are in the latest issue of Oak. And we'll get those up on the website and socials as well, so that everyone can see them. And hopefully come and visit you and say hello and touch all the products in your store and add some to cart and all of that.
Yes. That'd be amazing. I can't wait.
Same here. Thank you so much, Bec. And look forward to seeing what happens for the rest of the year and seeing your new store.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Now, before you take off with all that inspiration and knowledge, we'd love for you to leave a review on our podcast so that we can continue to amplify women's voices in the media. And if you have any questions, we'd like to celebrate a win, can always connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Oak Magazine AU. I'm so glad we've met and that now you know a friend of mine.